Hey everybody, Dieter Kurtenbach and Larry Kruger here in the San Francisco offices, KMBR. 49ers lose yesterday. There seemed to be a lot of optimism in that loss, which was confusing to me, and I think it's confusing to a lot of people. They seem to be building towards something, a lot of positive things. There's 5 games left in the season. What are we doing here? I'm having a hard time coming to an answer on what's going on with this 49ers team. What are they playing for? What are they doing? Are they looking for a low draft pick? Are they trying to figure it out at the end of the season and hope that momentum carries over? Because mediocrity doesn't play in the NFL, and I'm having a hard time seeing anything but a mediocre team right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly not playing for the draft pick. I mean, I think they should, but Tomsulas doesn't feel like either he's got, enough security, job security, or his coaches don't have job security because they're coaching to win every possible game. And what they really, I think, want to prove is that they can be competitive in the division and competitive on the road. And so yesterday, I think if there was optimism surrounding that game, it was that here was a team that beat them by 40 in week 3 that they were competitive with, and a team that was averaging 33 points a game rolling in, and they held them to 19. So I think ultimately there's 2 things that people were feeling good about yesterday. The defense's improvement from that first matchup, which is somewhat undeniable, and also just how much smoother the offense seems to be running with Gabbert, who threw for 319 yards. So I think that's where it's coming from. But you're right, it is a little confusing because it's a proud franchise that wins Super Bowls. That's owner stated it was their standard was Super Bowl or bust.
Of course.
And now they're not only not going to win a Super Bowl while the year they host it, they're not even going to get into the playoffs. And yet there does seem to be a little bit of enthusiasm around the thing. So it's an odd feel right now.
Especially when they keep saying there are no such thing as moral victories. Well, I beg to differ based on your reaction to all of this losing. You guys seem to be taking moral victories out of this game. There were positives. There's no doubt about that, especially after that game against Seattle when they just got run over by Rawls. The defense needs to figure it out on the road. I guess that's something they can play for in these last 5 games, figuring out how to play on the road because they've been terrible on it all season. And something that was brought up in the press box yesterday by Ray Woodson, BlaineGabbert might have earned the right to start the season for the 49ers next year, regardless of who they bring in, unless it's a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, which aren't exactly easy to get. If they bring in a rookie, if they bring in Jared Goff or Paxton Lynch like people want them to in the draft, let that kid rest. Let BlaineGabbert play. He's looked really good these last 3 games, and they're seemingly figuring it out more and more each game offensively.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback thing is a difficult thing because everybody's got a different philosophy. My philosophy on it is real basic. You either have a franchise quarterback and you're competing for Super Bowls, or you don't. And if you're in that second group and you don't have a franchise quarterback, to me, every round of new players, player procurement, whether it be the draft or free agency, you got to be thinking, where are you getting your next franchise quarterback? Because history tells us you're not winning a title, and you're definitely not going to have an extended run of winning without that franchise quarterback. So is Gabbert that guy? They'd like to hope he is. I don't think they really know that yet. So I think their mindset going into the offseason has got to be, once again, get an impact quarterback in the draft and potentially land that franchise guy. And I think you need to be that kind of myopic about the whole desire to get a franchise quarterback. I don't think you can have it on your list of things to do. I think you have to have it on the top of that list, and almost like you don't venture to the second, third, and fourth, and fifth item on your list until you get that one accomplished.
Absolutely. And I think that they don't know yet. I think that we all pretty much know that BlaineGabbert is a very serviceable, solid NFL quarterback. I think I commented yesterday he's the 20th best quarterback in the NFL. Mediocrity doesn't play. It just doesn't play. And he's been fine. He's been much better than his predecessor, Colin Kaepernick, this season. He's not the franchise. So I totally agree with you 100%. If you're focused on getting a franchise quarterback, and that's a whole bigger conversation for another day, you got to go out there and get it because you don't have him on the roster right now. And you got to fill up a lot of other holes. The problem that I have with the momentum and building towards something, and maybe next year will be better if we can finish this year strong, is they're going to finish off the rest of the roster just killing off at the end of the season. By the start of next season, there's going to be 3-4 guys who are on that Super Bowl team a couple of years back. It doesn't really carry over as much as I think it does. So it's confusing. I guess we'll see how they play it out from here. But right now we're just in a weird limbo with the 49ers, and there's not a lot of positives to take out of it when we're making mountains out of molehills.
Yeah, I mean, they have building to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and they have key pieces. I mean, you don't lose the kind of players that they've lost and just not hit a speed bump. I mean, they need a number one corner. They need a number one pass rusher. They need a number one defensive lineman. They need an all-pro offensive lineman on the right side of their offense.
Don't
they need
glance
a number
over
one
their
receiver.
real problems, though,
I mean,
Larry.
They need some real stuff. I mean,
Right.
And it doesn't happen overnight unless you really get an incredible draft, and that hasn't happened. So, I hear what you're saying. They're not there yet. I think in an ideal world, they would handicap this group of college quarterbacks and decide that they like a guy, or they're super intrigued by one of the prospects that isn't going in round one.
Right, agreed.
There's 3 guys who they think are going to go in round 1. The Michigan State kid, Paxton Lynch, and Jared Goff. Those 3 guys are going to go in round 1.
Who's
but
number
there
4?
are other guys. I mean, some people like Cardale Jones. I like the kid Wentz out of South Dakota, North Dakota, wherever he's from.
Yeah.
6'5".
That's going to go over great with the fans.
Well, my point would be this. If you felt like Gabbert could be the guy, then maybe you do wait until round 2 or 3 to get that quarterback that you think would be a nice, ideal partner to him. Or if you feel like Gabbert is not the guy, then maybe you do go at the top of round 1 for Jared Goff or Paxton Lynch and make them the starter and Gabbert the backup next year. So they've got options. I think ultimately what I've seen from Gabbert is I think there's probably the way I'd play it at this point, but I really like Jared Goff, and I've seen too many elite quarterbacks who were groomed in this part of the country, slip out some way. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, to mention a couple.
Right.
It would be a bitter pill for the 49ers if Jared Goff becomes a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback in a different uniform and they passed him up for an offensive tackle.
Or a guy from South Dakota State. We're going to talk about this a lot more as the season progresses. It's pretty much all we can talk about at this point. The playoffs are out of the picture. They could have gotten into the playoffs. They were 2 games out if they won yesterday, Larry. That's no more. 3 games out with 5 games to play. Impossible for this 49ers team, I think we can all agree. So plenty of draft talk here on 49ers Talk. Dieter Kurtenbach, Larry Kruger. Good night, Australia.